There is a growing pile of research right now saying that AI is making people worse thinkers. And most of it is right. But the part nobody's telling you is which people it's happening to and what actually protects you from it. Because that same tool that's dulling down most people is making a small group of people sharper than they've ever been. There's one finding that should stop you in your tracks. Researchers ran a controlled experiment, a study on around 1,000 students learning math. In one group, they introduced AI. That group, using AI to practice, were able to improve their scores by 40%. You would look at that and think that it's a massive win because it looks like one. But then the researchers took away the AI from these students and tested them on their own without the tool. Those same students scored 17% lower than students who never used AI at all. The AI was doing the exact practice that's supposed to build the skill. So therefore, the skill never got built by those students. And they felt sharper, they felt smarter the whole way through this experiment, but they ended up weaker. And that's what nobody seems to be addressing head on. People want to say that as soon as you start using AI, then you're going to get dumber. But it's not that simple. It's not that AI makes you dumber the day you start using it. It's that it can begin to erode the exact thinking that makes you good at what you do. And it does so without you feeling it, right up until the point, that moment, when you need the skill on your own and it's no longer there. In this video, I'm going to show you where that erosion actually is hitting people and why it's tending to hit high performers even harder than the rest. I'm also going to break down the specific line in the sand that the sharpest of the bunch are able to draw that helps them keep their competitive edge while everyone else is offloading themselves into the abyss of average. I'm Jesse Hoffman, founder of The Clarity Code. I am not an AI expert, and that's part of the point. I'm a mental performance expert. I spent the past decade of my career dedicated to understanding human performance. I spent my time understanding how human cognition actually works, and now I'm helping a lot more high performers keep that edge that they have while they use these tools, instead of letting the tools dull them down a bit and diminish that edge that makes them a high performer. So first, let's start with what we actually know, what the research is indicating, because what I'm saying is no longer a guess. It's not a hunch that the anti-AI people have. I hinted to this study in the beginning. The researchers ran a study on 1,000 math students. One group uses the AI to help them practice, and during the practice, everything looks great. Their performance skyrockets, jumps by 48%. And if the study stopped there, you'd think that AI was making people smarter. But then when they took away the tool and tested them on their own without AI, the group scored below the group of students that had never touched the AI tools. And when you have the AI tool doing the reps on a skill that you want to preserve, you start to lose that skill. That skill begins to atrophy because you're not the one managing it anymore. You can't watch someone else bench press and expect to get stronger. But here's the part of the study that I haven't gotten to yet, and the part that can actually keep you honest if you apply this same understanding to how you use AI. Because this is the part that almost everyone lets fall right through the cracks. There was one other group in that study, and that group used a version of AI that only gave hints but never gave the answer. It never did the work, and that group did not experience a decline in competency. They scored well with the tool. Of course, the AI, when they were using it, helped them perform better, but when it was removed, it didn't make them any worse. And so what that says is that this isn't about the AI being bad, because clearly it's not. It's about the responsibility that you hand it, what you bestow upon it. If you give it all the busy work, all the admin stuff, you're fine. You give away the creativity, you're gonna pay for that later. And there's lots of other research that points in this same direction. There was a study that found a very strong negative link between how much people leaned on AI and how well they were able to score in independent critical thinking. And as you might be able to guess, the heavier the reliance was on AI, the weaker their thinking became. And the youngest, least developed groups, they got hit even harder by this. That specific part is more of a correlation than anything, so I'll say that straight up, that it's just a correlation, but it lines up with every other finding of the other studies that I mentioned. And so to put a specific name and term, as I love to do, to what's happening here, it's referred to as cognitive offloading. Whenever your brain takes a task that it would normally otherwise be doing and hands it off to something outside of itself, that's what you're doing. And if you really think about this, we've seen this story play out before. It was just with our bodies instead of our minds. 100 years ago, machines began to take over our physical world, assembly lines, tractors, the list goes on. And with that, our bodies became weaker. The rise of obesity began in America. And that's because they didn't have to do anything anymore. And so what did we do? We invented the gym. We literally had to build a system, an infrastructure, build places that we had to go to put the effort back in on purpose. And we are right on the cusp of that same transition with thinking right now. All the friction is being removed. And the friction is the thing that's keeping us sharp, that's keeping us an intelligent species. And so when we get into the conversation of how high performers are hit the hardest by this, our whole edge as intellectual, high-performing, competent individuals is our thinking. It's our cognitive capacity, seeing things faster, calling it like it is, way cleaner, and making the decisions that most other people can't make, especially at the speed and accuracy that we can make them. That's likely what you've built your name, your business on. And that's the exact thing that's getting handed away and offloaded, one prompt at a time. And here's what makes it worse for you specifically. As all these tools raise the floor for everyone, the distance between you and the average shrinks. Those things that used to separate you at one point start to disappear. The biggest silent killer underneath all of this is that you cannot feel it happening. We're almost in a state of delusion, and researchers even found that people leaning on AI rated their own understanding as higher simply because the answers were right in front of them and they sounded smart, they sounded clean, and even like themselves. But they couldn't rebuild any sort of reasoning on their own as to why they were right, why they were smart. And so they felt sharper while getting duller. And it's nearly impossible to fix or improve anything, especially a decline that you're unable to feel or measure. So here's what the highest performers, the sharpest ones, will do differently. They're certainly not avoiding these tools, but they're also not drowning in them either. And I've been on both sides of that aisle. But the sharpest people, they've drawn a line on purpose, deliberately, and they've decided ahead of time what still has to require them. Non-negotiable. What's thinking that they will not hand over no matter what, no matter how easy it would be. And that line in the sand is not a guess. And at the deepest fundamental level, that's identity work that most people avoid even without AI. So now as we progress into this revolution, and it's now the one piece that almost every single article, video, study is completely skipping over right now. This is where I get my hands dirty with the people that I work with. Searching for clarity as some vague idea is not going to cut it. You have to truly know your own operating system well enough that you can say with precision, definitively, that this is mine to keep doing, to preserve for myself. This is what I can let go of. And that's going to define the entire difference between using the tools intelligently and slowly being replaced by them. Now more than ever is the most important time to define rigid values, clear roles that you're willing to take up versus what you're willing to outsource. What are you willing to risk losing through outsourcing and cognitive offloading versus what is absolutely necessary that you preserve because your existence, your edge relies on it. And so what I would like you to do this week on your own, take one task that you would normally just hand right off to AI without a second thought. A real impactful decision, whether it's a decision to be made or a piece of writing, emails, outreach, content, or a hard problem to solve. Try doing it yourself first this time for a few times. Then you can let AI check the work for you if you want. Do not let it do it for you. And watch how much more of that work actually stays with you. Maybe brings you some sense of satisfaction and energy. If identifying these things and building up your relationship with AI is work that you need support on, the link to apply for the session with me is right below in the description. You'll also find down there an AI clarity audit that will help you measure your current relationship with AI and the potential threats, weaknesses, or maybe even strengths in how you're currently using AI. So find what's best for you right down there, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.